All right, so I've covered Z shell and PowerShell. In the last week, I stumbled on Fish again, and I took a chance to actually use it, and I love it. And so in this video, I want to talk about the Ask OpenAI setup that I created for Fish. It won't be drastically different, but it's sometimes interesting to see the nuances of a given shell. And then in future videos, I'll be spending more time talking about Fish because it has some really awesome features that you should know about. So just to be clear, Fish is an alternative shell. So like Z shell is an alternative to Bash, which is pretty common. You could also use Fish instead. And if you spend a lot of time at the shell, definitely worth the time to at least check it out. For now, let's hop over to the command line. Just like before, I can type in a question. For example, maybe I want to find key bindings for user input in Fish. Control B. And I get back bind-u. And I get back a list of the user-defined bindings. If I want to get all of them, I can probably drop the u parameter. There you go. So these are the key bindings that are set up. For example, here is Control B. And this is mapped to a function called ask_OpenAI. Now, if you notice when I'm typing out a question, help me do whatever. When I hit Control B here in a moment, pay attention. There won't be any sort of asking OpenAI indicator. It's just going to ask the question and it's going to replace the response. All right, so if I hop over to my .files public repo, I can open this up and we can take a look at the implementation of Fish. I've actually ported a lot of my Z shell config to work in Fish, so you have to dig through this, but basically there's a load last folder inside of a Fish folder, and inside of there you'll find an ask OpenAI. So here is the function that I defined. The very first thing I do is I set a variable and I gather the user input, so whatever question I typed, that gets stored into this user input variable. I then locate Python, and then I locate the Python script file. Remember, this script reaches out to OpenAI and gets back a response. And then on the next line, I'm doing a couple of things here. First up, I'm building the context or the question. I'm specifying this is Fish and on a Mac. And then right after that, I have another line here with the question, so whatever I typed in. All of that gets piped into a call to Python, which then passes that into the Python script that I located. So essentially the question goes in, and then whatever comes out of that Python script, which would be the response from OpenAI, that gets stored into this response variable. And then just like before, I do some exit code parsing. The most important part, though, is if I get back a response, I can go ahead and replace whatever the user typed in with this command line -- replace. And then at that point, we're done. So the big difference here is I don't have any sort of indicator that I'm asking OpenAI. And the reason for that is that, well, that would be a lot more complicated because I'd need some mechanism to ask OpenAI in the background like I did with Z shell. And I don't have that inside of Fish right now, and I didn't feel like it was worth implementing. Instead, I thought this would be a good opportunity just to skip that step so you can see what that's like in terms of usability.